Hello and welcome to Shark Talk. In this episode, we're going to be talking about underwater cave exploration, about Caribbean reef sharks, and about an incredible interaction with our guest, Cristina Zenato, ocean and underwater cave explorer and shark expert, and these Caribbean reef sharks. It really is something to behold, and not only that, but she uses this interaction to remove hooks from their jaws. We have footage of all of this, and of course, the woman herself telling us all about it. So let's get stuck in here on Shark Talk. Hello, Cristina. Welcome to Shark Talk. You're joining us from the Bahamas. It's lovely to have you. How's it going?
Very good, Gemma. Thank you for having me.
Not at all, not at all. I'm so excited to talk to you about all of your adventures. I mean, you do all sorts of exciting things, so we're going to jump straight in and talk about them. We'll start with, well, actually, what we will start with is on your website, it said that you speak 5 languages. So English, German, Italian, Spanish, which one have I missed? French. But also it says that you speak a 6th language, which is shark. So can you just unpack that a little bit for us? What does that mean? Tell us.
I have a lot of people that told me that when I'm in the water with sharks, I basically speak their language because they observe the interactions that I have with them. And for me, speaking a language is really interesting. When I was learning the traditional languages, you learn to speak it, read it, or write it, understand it. And so with sharks, it's actually more like of a listening language. So I can tell a shark, and especially my sharks, my Caribbean reef sharks and our sharks, we're specifically talking about them, but like the status in which they are. If they're agitated, if they're relaxed, if something has disturbed them during the day, what weather is also happening and all of that through just watching their behavior. So I kind of like listen to them and then adapt my behavior to what I observe. So that is the speaking shark is instead of trying to give sharks a human interpretation of their behavior, is just saying, well, this is a shark and that's what they're doing right now for this reason.
When people say that a shark is unpredictable, it's an interesting take.
So people say, oh, that was unpredictable. Yes, it was unpredictable as a human being because I think we maybe don't have the full comprehension of the animal's language and what the animal is doing and what the animal is trying to tell us. And so then we go, oh, well, that was really unpredictable. Usually sharks do this. But chances are what happened in a shark's mind, the shark went through what I call a checklist. And it went, oh, this check, this check, this check, this check. I'm going to act this way. And to us, it might appear as like, well, why did the shark act this way? But to the shark, it makes perfect sense. It's like, well, all the things that nature tells me to check before I do something absolutely fitted with the situation. The problem is we don't have that full comprehension. And sometimes we still, to this day, refuse to have the full comprehension, which I think comes with spending quite a lot of time in the water with them. Scientific studies are amazing. They're great. You know, they rely on certain data to give you information, which is really, really good. But I do believe the spending time with a creature, just sitting there watching them, gives you a very different outlook on the animal themselves.
And you've contributed a lot to scientists and behavioural analysts and things by telling them your experiences of observing and interacting with sharks, and we will talk about that in a second. But I just want to backtrack a little bit, actually, because I normally ask people, you know, when did you first become interested in sharks, or where did your passion start? But with you, I'd actually like to know a bit more about where your passion and connection with the water and with the ocean in general started.
My mom tells me that when I was an infant, the only way to keep me calm and relaxed is to draw a bath and leave me in the water. And as soon as she pulled me out of the water, I would just scream a bloody murder. And it was like, she said, you were always simply and uniquely attracted by the water. No matter, you know, you crawl towards the ocean. It might be like a 6-foot wave coming towards you, and you always had to be on the lookout for you because you just were attracted by the water. And so that is before I can even have a recollection of it. As a person who has a recollection of it, I always loved being in the water, and it doesn't matter which water, the ocean, of course, but then the lake. When I moved, when went from Africa to Italy during my holiday, a river, the sound of the water, the sound of the rain. So I feel the water is a healing place. It's a calming place. It's a cleansing. I love to stand under the rain, not the lightning storms, the rain, and allow just all the thoughts to be washed away by the water. So I have like this beautiful feeling towards water. Water is life.
Now you've worked with lots of different species of sharks, but your primary species is the Caribbean reef shark, isn't it? And
Yes, correct.
why did that become your species of focus?
Well, because that's the one that I started with, but it's also the one that I started having the relationship with. So it's the one that I started working with while I was here under the tutelage of my mentor Ben Rose, and that I started petting. And they have like this natural reaction of like uh, basically relaxing into your lap, and so it was easy to continue working with them. I went and tried outer species, work with different species. I also do believe that one size does not fit all. So the way I work with Caribbean, I'm not going to go around the world trying to do the same thing with all the other sharks. There might be another species that has the same kind of like capability, but I also believe that certain species should not be handled nor interacted with the same you do with Caribbean. Each one has its own niche and way of working with, just because of maybe size, because of prey, because of environment. So the interaction and the relationship I need to have to each and every one of them has to be very different.
Just to talk about that interaction with the reef sharks and the touch, how was that discovered? How did that come about?
Like anything, a little bit by accident. 30 years later, you look back and you're kind of like, oh, dear God, what did we do? But it was very much by accident. It was Ben Rose. Caribbean reef sharks were coming in to feed, and she came in a little bit too fast. So he actually put his hand out to kind of like deflect her, touch her on the nose and just pushed her out of the way. And she basically kind of like stopped in his hand, and then slowly kind of like starts sinking down. And obviously, as soon as she sank down, she kind of like swam off, and we're just like, what happened? So in the beginning, if you actually look, I still have some old videos, and it's kind of embarrassing to look at them, but we thought that very much it was the contact with the ampullae of Lorenzini, all the stimuli here, that caused the shark to go into this relaxed situation. We also used to call it tonic immobility, which is not. And so there's videos even of me in the beginning where you can see me just kind of like trying to wrap the nose and wrap the shark, and it's like, come on, go to sleep. With time, as I interact with them, I realized that it was not that. There might be a high sensory reaction to the touch in that area because they're very sensitive, but not all sharks like to go to sleep in my lap. And not whoever whales chain milk can put a shark to sleep. So I realized it was actually something that they had to, in a certain way, initiate. It has to be a certain kind of shark. It has to be a certain kind of person. It has to be also the right moment. And then as I work with a group, in the group, there are a few that like to be touched and some that are very interactive. They'll come in, they'll swim over your head, they'll feed off your hand, they'll come in, but you can never put them in your lap. They're like, no, I'm not going in your lap. And that's the way it is. I don't think we should force them. It's just their choice to come in and stay and leave.
When you say they initiate it, how do they don't swim into your lap, or do they swim? How they do? They just
they'll swim in, like they'll swim in into my chest, or they'll swim into my thigh, and I'll feel like a little weight, and then I look down, and the shark is just basically leaning into me. And so all I do is I escort it down to the ocean floor, and there is a little bit of touching that you have to do a little bit. Some don't really like to be touched much because they're not into a trance state. They're just relaxed, so they're still very active. One of the things like I realize is you can't put a shark to sleep and then have people rush over like to take the video or take pictures, because she'd be like, oh, feeling constricted, she'll run away. So you have to relax the shark. You have to make sure that there's no external inputs. Like one of my worst problems is the nurse sharks, because as soon as you lay on the ocean floor with a shark, the nurse shark will come in and start poking underneath the shark. right? Trying to find if there's a feeder tube where to go. And so imagine you're trying to relax and now somebody's poking you on your flank the entire time. Now you're a wild animal being poked by someone else. So it's just like, and swim away. So you have to have them relax and then give them a little bit of time. And then they just sit there. And then when they're tired, they just swim away. Sometimes they keep swimming. As I move away, they keep swimming into my lap.
And it's interesting where you say it's not tonic immobility, because when I first saw some of the videos of you with the sharks, that was my first thought. I was like, oh, okay, it's that, phenomenon. But could you just, for people watching, explain just briefly what tonic immobility is and maybe what the differences are between the interactions that you're having and tonic immobility?
Tonic immobility is a natural reaction of animals, not only sharks, to a different situation. And in case of sharks, could be like a stressful or threatful situation, but as well is used in, for example, in mating, where the males forcefully grabs the female by the pectoral fins and then forcefully, and I'm talking about forcefully, this is, let's say, a Caribbean reef shark, so an 8-foot animal trying to be flipped over, right? There's no way I can do that. But basically the male grabs the female and just forcefully flips her over to insert clasper. So to facilitate copulation, then the female goes into this tonic immobility. And there's this mechanism inside the sharks that makes it basically go limp. There's actually footage of orcas using that with great whites.
Yes.
Right. So imagine if I want to put a great white in tonic immobility, I will have to have the strength of an orca. Right? So tonic immobility has all these inputs, and it definitely changes heartbeats, like a respiratory system. And a lot of sharks, especially the one that are captured for scientific purposes, once you put them back in the water and you flip them again, you actually have to kind of like swim them, and kind of like almost like when you come out of anesthesia.
Yes.
And you have the nurse on top of you and he's like slapping you. It's like, Cristina, right? And then it's just absolutely trying to get you out of the anesthesia. Where my sharks come in, sit there, they're still aware, their eyes are still moving, they still feel everything. If something is bugging them, they'll move. You'll see actually videos where if the remora is moving too much, the shark's just going to be like, this is tickles, stop. And then the shark relaxes, but then when she wakes up or gets up and swims away, she's like perfectly okay. Like there's no altered behavior. She's not running away. She's not drugged. She basically swims back in and behave like nothing happened.
Do you think this is a behavior that's related to their mating, like it is with the tonic immobility, or why do you think they do it?
There is a theory behind that. Because females are more prone to this interaction than males. Primarily, big females are more prone to this interaction than smaller females or, for example, males. But I do believe it also has to do a little bit with hierarchy as well. A big female is a dominant in the group of sharks, and in such may be more comfortable to relax for a little bit. Where if I am a small female and I still have to look at my surroundings, maybe I'm not as comfortable. So yes, there is a theory related with mating. But again, mine is not a forceful behavior like a male shark will do to a female Caribbean reef shark during mating. And I mean, my girls have come back with gashes in their body like this deep. If you and I were bitten that way by a shark trying to mate, we would be in a hospital in ICU.
Yes.
Way, way more forceful and, obviously intrusive than just petting them a little bit.
You've managed to use this finding to some really good ends, haven't you? I mean, you've been able to remove these shark hooks, which is incredible. I mean, what a brilliant thing to be able to do and to give back to the sharks.
Hooks are there for many reasons. Some could be intentional, most of them are accidental. A shark is a shark. So if you come fishing in an area where there are Caribbean reef sharks, which is very much a cleaner, and you hook up a fish and a fish is struggling on the line and sends out all these vibrations like, oh, I'm dying, I'm dead, I'm struggling, the sharks will come in to bite it. So there's a lot of hooks that have accumulated because most likely they bit someone else's fish off. So there's quite a lot of different hooks. Some have hard time eating. You'll give their fish, they'll bite the fish and then they're like, this hurts, and then let go of the fish. And I just want to help them. I just want to help them because I love them.
Do you find it's the same sharks that come back with hooks? So does it happen repeatedly to the same sharks?
Yeah, they don't learn. Their job is to go after what the nature deems that needs to be clean, and they will do that. So I have sharks where I might have removed already 4 or 5 times the hooks, or 6 times the hooks. What is funny is that sometimes new sharks show up when I start removing hooks from my regulars. Then new sharks with hooks will show up, and then it starts a whole new process of establishing trust in me. I have to lure them in first with food, and then it takes them, several dives to just go, oh, I'm not sure I want to come in. Then you feed them, and you don't try to remove the hooks. Removing the hook is a painful process. No animal will sit there going, yeah, can you remove that? They're not going to do that. As soon as you try to remove the hook, they'll swim away. But the amazing part for me is they swim away, and then they come back and let you try again, and then swim away and come back and let you try again, and swim away and then come back and let you try again. And that is the difference. If they didn't understand the connection, the first time it hurts, they will just. What they do is they keep coming back. I have, sometimes allow me to try it 3, 4, 5, 7 times. The hook is a symbol. I can't save all the sharks in the world, but what I'm trying to say is they deserve the attention and they deserve the respect, but they also deserve to be protected. And I want people to connect with the hook removal. It's like, wow, you go to the extent of putting your arm down a shark's mouth to remove a hook. When people say, well, it's going to rust anyway, it's like, well, that's not the concept. Is they need protection, and it's absolutely necessary.
But, there is hope. And one huge beacon of hope is what you've managed to achieve in the Bahamas with, making it a protected area. I mean, you really did start that movement, didn't you? I believe.
Yes, I started with a petition asking the Bahamian government to basically stop anything that had to do with shark commerce, import, export, lending, eating, finning, all of that, cartilage. And then I think parallel, I don't know if but basically the Bahama National Trust and the Pew organization approached me. And they said, well, we're trying to protect the sharks. Go and grab your petition. My petition had 25,000 signatures back then. And so they grabbed the petition, logoed it, and then continued a campaign on national level. And we had the shark protected in the entire Bahamas in 2011. So it does have an impact. We also have an impact from an economical point of view. So one of the things I do that it may be controversial, which is, taking people to see sharks, feeding sharks, and all of that. It's called shark tourism. People want to see sharks. People are fascinated, afraid. There's kind of like the mixed feeling. But shark tourism is very lucrative for a very small country. A country that relies very much on fishing still and tourism. And then there's all these tourism that come in for all our species, great hammerheads, tigers, lemons, Caribbean reef sharks, oceanic whitetip, and provides a livelihood for the people here. It's not external people. It's people that live here. And the Bahamians can benefit from live sharks. So it has economical value to say, well, you can make $1,000 to kill the shark, or you can make $1,000, I'm saying something crazy, a week for keeping the same shark alive. So you kill the shark, you make $1,000, that's it. Yeah. Or you keep the shark alive and keep doing this tour, and every month you make $1,000 or something like that. And that is very, very important.
I would love to talk to you about some of your underwater cave exploration. Just incredible. Not only the spectacle that is the caves themselves. I mean, it looks like something out of Lord of the Rings when you're going through there, shining your torch on all these stalagmites and all sorts. But also the fact that some of these places, you're the first person to go there. I mean, that must be an amazing feeling.
It is. It is very unique to realize that no other human being has ever been there before. And it's even more unique when you can repeat that over and over again. It's deemed that most of the planet has been explored, but I actually completely disagree with it, especially in the cave world. There's just so much that still needs to be explored. So it allows a selected few, maybe we're 1,000 in this world, which is nothing compared to the population. We're privileged enough to be able to do that. And I think that is absolutely magical. It is dangerous, but it is magical and extremely rewarding. It had that sense of anticipation. It's down of a lot of failures. So instead of a lot of pinched areas where you have to come out and go back in and come out and go back in and come out, people don't realize that there's a lot of patience involved, a lot of repetition, a lot of dedication, and a lot of effort sometimes just to get to the cave. I tell people the caves for me are like a giant book over the history of this planet. And then you swim through and you're trying to think about, well, what happened here? What did the water do here? And why is this like this? And recently we've been exploring, we've been resurveying, digitally resurveying with modern method, a 30,000 feet vast system. And as we start resurveying, obviously using, I did it 10 years ago with a traditional pencil, slate, and compass and bubble, which is painstaking and slow. It took me 2 years to do it.
Wow.
This one, we did it in 2.5 months, two of us, with a digital system. It's called Nemo. We use this Nemo thing. But as we did this, we also, now that we have rebreathers and better gases and better dry suits, and we stay warmer longer and all of that, we're in the back of the cave exploring, and we have been able to add nearly another 3,000 feet to this system. And then you find holes in the floor that go down to a next level, and you're like, how did that happen? And then parallel to this, the next tunnel has the same thing, but is like 3 or 5 meters shallower. So, and you start thinking, it's like, well, why there's one outer layer? Well, if there's one layer below, is there one layer above? And so the cave just keeps opening up in these like different floors and surprises. And then some tunnels are completely empty, like full carved by water phreatic tunnels. And then you swim, and 4,000 feet in, all of a sudden you find yourself in one of the area called the crystal gates, because it's covered in this thin soda straw. Soda straw is where the stalactite starts, and they're like a meter high from the ceiling to the bottom. You swim through a meter, like between the bottom and the ceiling, and they're like thin, like a pen, like a straw, and they're covering the entire area, and they're like several meters thick, and I can't get through. Basically, when I swam through there and I was running the line, when it was time to turn, I was like, how am I going to turn without damaging this? It's like swimming with all your gear through like a crystal shop. And so I had to decide between destroying the decorations, and I literally basically laid on the floor, right? And curl my legs in, and then basically pivot in like this giant dust cloud where I couldn't see anything, so that I could actually turn like this with my legs completely up without damaging all the signatures, and literally crawled out for the first few meters so that I will leave this room completely.
That's amazing. And how about life? What is there much life in the caves?
Yes, in a certain way there is, but it's all minute. So most of the creatures are small. There's a few fishes. One of them is called the lucifuga, which is a blind cave fish. Some gobies. They're crustaceans for the most part. For example, cocopods, arthropods. There's one called the remipedia, which is it basically means swims with the feet.
Okay.
Right? And it's like a little segmented worm that has looks like an underwater centipede and swims through the water, moving like these feet. And if you look at the microscope, it actually had gigantic jaws, like out of a monster movie. And when it bites down on its prey, like maybe a thermosebaceans or a cocopods, it actually injects them with the liquid and then slurps them from the inside out.
Oh my God.
It's a good thing they're not 6 feet long.
Yes.
But in caves, the metabolic rate of the animals is extremely low. So they tend to move very little, to sit there for a very long time, because the food is very few and far between. So there is all of that life. There's right now in the cave, Banks Cave, where we dive in, there's like little sargasso meals that follow in the fresh water.
Oh, wow.
And then the ocean blue holes are covered in life. So if I dive in an entrance of a cave that is in the ocean, then it's life galore. And
what can we learn from caves?
Yeah, so we can learn how everything is interconnected. If you think about caves the same way we can think about like the drain in a city and a river and the ocean, that is a perfect example of that. So that means if I damage the cave 6 miles inland, over the coppice forest, and the water travels from there all the way to the ocean. Whatever damage I do here, which you keep burning the forest down, throwing away diesel, throwing away oil, throwing away something, and then burns in a fire, will, with a particulate, go through the limestone into the water supply and travel all throughout where the cave goes. So one of the things we can really learn is the interconnectivity of everything on this planet, and they're in a miniature example.
Right, I have some questions for you.
I thought you didn't so far.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. I should say some other people have some questions for you.
Okay.
So I have a question from Dr. Sam Thomas Williams, and he says, can you find sharks in underwater caves?
Yes, you can, but not at the entrance. You can find sharks at the entrance, and you can find sharks patrolling the blue holes because they are transporting so much nutrients. They attract so much fish that it also attract also so many predators. So there's a lot of caves, ocean holes where you go in, and as you jump in is a swirl of fish. And by predators, I mean there's groupers, there's snappers, there's the barracudas, and then there's sharks. So I always found sharks around the blue holes, obviously looking for their prey. And then I found some of the more what I consider sedentary shark, like a nurse shark, for example, sleeping maybe right at the entrance, but not inside. I never seen a shark inside an ocean blue hole beyond, like the first part.
Next question from Rebecca Crown. I have seen lots of your underwater photo work and modelling work. How long can you hold your breath underwater, and how do you protect your eyes?
The holding of the breath depends on the depth and what I'm doing. In some cases, I use what is called a negative sinking. So I'll ventilate a little bit on the surface, but then because I don't have weights, I actually exhale to sit at the bottom to do the picture. So I have a fairly limited time to sit there. Instead, if I have a nice breath and I'm wearing the weights and I can stay down there, depending on the depth, and we're talking about 15 meters is a couple of minutes. I'm not a big, like super breath hold diver. I really don't practice. My eyes, I don't do anything. They really, I mean, after a full session in the ocean, they might be kind of like bloodshot red and burning a little, but it's not a big deal. But I give you a trick of the trade. If you do something in which you have to put the mask on and then take it off to do the picture, and then you want to put the mask on to look at the, the photographer. Let's say you're doing something on scuba, and you're looking at the photographer, and she's trying to tell you something. When you clear the mask, squeeze your heart really, really tight. So you squeeze, and then when you open them, they're not going to burn.
That is a very good tip. Thank you for that. Rebecca, hopefully that has helped you out with your question. I think just to end the talk, really, do you have any mottos or an ethos that you live by or anything like that? I know sometimes people do have something that they like to use to motivate themselves.
Well, there's different for different situation. The one that I follow is the star thrower. I think is maybe the most inspirational story is the representation, and each one of us can make a difference for someone. And we maybe can't save the world, but we can, save the world of someone. And the story goes about an old man walking the beach and notice a young boy picking up something off the sand and throwing it back into the water. And as he approaches, he realizes he's throwing starfish back into the water. And he says, "What are you doing?" The young man answers, "There's an extremely low tide, and there's a stranded starfish will die of suffocation if I don't put them back into the water." So the old man contests that and says, "Well, there's thousands and thousands of starfish, and this beach alone is miles long. Plus, there's other beaches and so many miles, you will never make a difference." And so the young boy has a starfish in his hand, looks at the old man, looks at the starfish, puts the starfish back in the water and says, "Well, I made a difference for that one." And so I hang on to those star throwers' stories because I think that's, as humans, that's what we need. And I think if more people start throwing, the starfish back in the water, I think we will have better results. So I don't want people to go, oh, but it's just only me, I will never make a difference. It's like, what if you make a difference for that one person, and that one person makes a difference for another one person? It's better than no difference at all.
Very poignant, but very inspirational. Cristina, thank you, our very own star thrower for the sharks. Thank you so much for chatting. It's been just fascinating talking to you. And yeah, enjoy your next adventure, whether it's in a cave or with a shark or wherever it takes you. But yeah, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for watching as well.
Thank you, Gemma. Bye.